Hey everybody, it's Catherine, and since everybody is celebrating Summerween already, I thought it would be fun to do a Halloween illustration. And Halloween is my favorite holiday, and it is so inspiring when it comes to illustrations and art. It's a lot of fun. There's so many possibilities. I love the color palette and just the fun with it all. I like spooky things, not too much gory, but just kind of fun, cute, spooky. So I wanted to do a cute milk box. It's really easy to do if you want to try it yourself. Basic shapes here, and there are so many possibilities with this kind of an illustration. You can really have fun with it. I stuck with a pretty basic Halloween color palette, obviously black and white, and then oranges, purples, and greens, which is pretty much my go-to for Halloween. I did the milk box in 3 different shades of purple. I wanted to keep that pretty monochromatic. And my thinking was to kind of make the box look a little bit like a haunted house in a way. You can see my sketch over that. And when I do a sketch, I try to stick with it as much as possible, but I do change things sometimes along the way. I might just think, oh, this looks a little better, or I like this. It might be a different pattern, or I might add something, take something out. So that's kind of how it works. My favorite blending mode is the soft light mode, and I would definitely check that out. You'd really like it. And the reason I like the blending mode, the soft light mode, I mean, they're all great. They all do their own different thing. But the soft light mode works with the color underneath and sort of creates a different version of it. So to me, it's a more natural looking shadow most of the time, or it just gives a really cool effect. But you have to be careful when you use the blending modes if you want to combine layers, because sometimes when you do that, it affects the way it looks. So be careful when you're combining layers if you've used the blending modes. Just make sure you don't, pay attention to what you're doing, because sometimes when you merge them together, the look, it will affect that. So you want to be careful about that. So here I'm just doing some cute little shutters, and I just took the one and kind of reversed it, and I'm trying to make these look a little more three-dimensional here. And I like to take my eraser tool and go in and clean up what I do so it's a little more crisp on the edges. And once you make a shape, now if you use the shaping tool, you don't really have to do that necessarily, but if you draw it by hand, no matter what brush you're using, if you want to make the edges a little more sharp, just use your eraser tool and kind of swipe it across and to give you a sharper edge. I took that shutter and just duplicated it to the other side, and I'm using the distort tool there to kind of make it a little wonky. And the great thing about doing like Halloween things especially is you can be a little wonky. It doesn't have to be super precise. I like that in my illustrations. I like to not be completely symmetrical all the time. I like balance in a illustration, and I like more limited color palette, and using a monochromatic color palette is really effective. But having it a little wonky and not so perfectly symmetrical, I think enhances the illustration. It makes it more appealing, more interesting, and a cuter. It gives it a cuter look. And I like to make cute illustrations. That's just the way it is. So here I am going in with my eraser tool. Again, erasing, cleaning things up. An eraser tool is really important, so use it a lot. It cleans things up a bit. So here I'm trying different blending modes. And I did use one that made the lines kind of a greenish, but I ended up changing that down the road, I think, to the soft light, because they just were a little too prominent, and I don't know, I just thought they were a little too distracting, and I didn't want to introduce that greenish color onto those shutters. I just didn't like it. So I eventually changed that down the road. I love the straw, the way that came out. I think it's so cute. And again, even the straw detail you can change and have a lot of fun with that. and make it different, change the colors, change the pattern, just to make it different. And if you want to go into your illustration and change things, then just keep all the elements on their separate layers. Now, in the end, I joined everything and flattened it to make it a flat illustration. And I like to do that just for future if I want to use it to create patterns or sell that in my Etsy shop to do things like that so people can download it and print it. And I'm possibly working towards a Halloween pack to do that. But if you want to go in and make a lot of changes down the road, definitely keep your layers separate so you can do stuff like that. So I added a brick pattern there, which is one of my favorite patterns to put against a building. And that's a lot of fun. And then I use the blending mode. I think I use the soft light again to just make it a lighter version of that color so it's more subtle. So that's why that's a really great blending mode. It's a more subtle look to the pattern there. I usually don't put eyebrows on my ghosts, but I started doing that, and I think it's a really cute way to give them some expression. Eyebrows are very effective when it comes to expressions on any kind of an illustration, really. I didn't put them on my pumpkin though because I don't know. I don't really see eyebrows on pumpkins. They're more inanimate objects, I guess, than a ghost would have more of an expression on it. So I did the yellow eyes to make it look like it's a jack-o'-lantern lit up, and that's kind of a more traditional way to do jack-o'-lanterns if you want it to be lit up. But I did not want to introduce the color yellow into the illustration. Again, I just am trying to limit the palette to the green, purple, and the orange. So I just made the inside black, so it's not really lit up yet. I'm not sure if that's a good thing. But then I went in with like a gray and gave it some depth here. So that's an easy thing to do. You can just go inside and make it look like it has a little depth, and maybe there's a bit of a reflection of something going on there. And I think that enhances that quite a bit, and I really, really like that. So I brought in the same green from the background to make the stem here, and that's a good way to kind of keep things consistent and a little more uniform with that instead of introducing a whole new green. I do have some highlights here, but I brought in that base green for the stem to kind of keep it a little more cohesive with the background. So that's something good to do. Then I added a shadow underneath. Again, I used the soft light blending mode, so it looks more like it's reflecting off that orange. And I took the same color to kind of just add a little shadow in there. And I liked that soft light blending mode is really great for shadows, where it looks to me a little more realistic, and I really like that look. Okay, here I am adding an extra window to the side here. I like to do my windows typically with a white frame and then black on the inside. And you could make it where it's lit up on the inside and make it more yellow, more orange. That would have been something I could have done, but I wanted to keep the inside black. I usually do it that way with the windows, and especially with this, it's a little more mysterious. And I am going to add something into that front window. I did add it after I combined everything, so I had to be a little more careful. Now, again, the door, I created the door. It's a little wonky, and then I just duplicated the layer so it matches exactly. And then the little front part of the window, the little detail, of the door here, I also make it's not proper perspective, it's not following the same vanishing point, but it still looks cute. It's Halloween. You can be a little Dr. Seuss with it. You know what I mean? Again, I use the soft lighting there. And then the keyhole there, or the doorknob, I decided at the last minute to make it a little skeleton head. I thought, oh, that's really cute. I love skeleton heads. And I just thought that was a really cute little spooky kind of detail to add to that. And I really like to add cute little details to my illustrations. I think it just makes it a lot more fun. This is the flap fold over here, and I'm going to do this in a little bit of a brighter purple just to bring in something a little more colorful. Okay, so what I did is I matched that purple with the purple in the door. Okay, you see the how it matches. So that makes it look a little more balanced when you take one color and add it to another part of the illustration and you see it throughout the illustration. That helps balance things a little bit. So that's a good technique to do. Here I'm adding some moon and stars on the top of the milk box, which I think is really cute. I hand draw the stars here, and they're not perfect. That's okay. It's okay to be wonky with that. And I'm adding some cute little dot stars. When you do a crescent, make sure you do not put anything inside that crescent because it's still a full moon. It's just a shadow over the moon. So a lot of people make that mistake. Do not put any stars inside that crescent area. And then I decided to outline everything in white so it really pops against that green background. And I really like the way that turns out. I outlined the entire box in white, and you could do it in black too, but I prefer white with this, with the background. I think it looks really cool. In this part here, I wanted to give this milk some kind of a name. I really didn't want to flavor it, you know, because it's purple. I didn't know, you know, what kind of flavor. So I thought, well, let me do a play on boo with moo, like a cow. So I thought that would be cute. And I'm trying to work out the lettering here, what I wanted to do to kind of follow that little pattern of, you know, it's kind of a shadow of bushes. It's like hinted that there's like bushes there or some kind of shadow from bushes. I wanted some kind of element. You know how milk cartons, Kawaii milk cartons have like cute elements like that. Then I just went along with the white to make it look a little cutesy there. And I am really inspired by Kawaii art, even though the faces on the ghosts are not that traditional Kawaii look, but I like kind of being influenced by that. So I tried to do an overlay of a canvas on this to kind of give it some texture, try different things. I really didn't like it at all. I'm not too much into that with my art. I like the colors to really shine through and be bold. I'm not into graininess as much as other artists might be, and that's okay. That's just my style. Now I'm trying different backgrounds. I always like to have a background pattern over the color background. And I was trying different things, and then I knew what I wanted to do. I was kind of looking for it here, and I have so many different brushes. This is the one I wanted to do. It's like a retro, and I really liked it. Then I went to soft light again. It's just a lighter version of that same color green. Brought down the opacity, and so now I'm just combining everything together, all my layers, putting them into a group to flatten it. And then I will add a few more things. This is why it's important to make sure you're completely done before you do that, because, you know, you always want to go in and add stuff. So I thought, well, let me add a few little stars and carry that down to the front, even though it's not technically the sky. It's a milk carton. You could be a little, you don't have to be super realistic here, but I thought the element of the stars would be cute on the house, just to bring that down through the entire front of the box. And this layer of stars and little dots is on a separate layer because I want to, again, use the soft light blending mode and to kind of make it more transparent and match more of the background and look a little less harsh. And you see what I mean, what I did right there. It's a really cool effect. So I highly recommend trying that blending mode with your illustrations. It's really cool. And then I decided I have to have something in this window because it's just so empty and huge. And I decided I'm going to do a little skeleton guy inside here waving at everybody. It was a little difficult because I did flatten the whole thing. I couldn't go behind that window pane. I had to kind of draw around it. So I just kind of did that where he's kind of waving there at everybody, just to bring the viewer in and make it a little cuter. And he's just kind of leaning over waving like, you know, there's somebody here or somebody's home. And I was thinking about drawing his leg out, but that didn't work. I just kind of left it like that. And I wanted to fill this space here as well with pumpkin. And again, I had to work around that frame there, which is okay. Just zoom in really close and you can do it. It's not a problem. And just make the edges really nice and clean. And you can do that with your eraser tool. That's what that's great for. And I just go in here and do a little jack-o'-lantern, a little pumpkin to fill in that space. Bring the orange back over to the other side of the illustration so it balances a little bit better, and you'll see it comes out pretty good. Okay, so that is the finished illustration. I really like the way it came out. I don't think I'll add anything else. My favorite part is probably that little door. I just love the way it came out. I think it's so cute. And I love the skeleton and the jack-o'-lantern kind of peeping through the window. I really am happy with it. And I like the green background. I think that's perfect. Tell me what you guys think.